back to Swans Cast then, everyone. We're changing sport again this week with round 2 of the Six Nations up. So, and again, we're not experts on the rugby, but just a group of mates talking about all kinds of sport. I hope you're enjoying what we're doing. And if you are, just hit the subscribe button and follow us on Twitter and Instagram as well. And get involved with the debate as well if you want. So comment on Twitter, Instagram, and in the comments. So welcome back to Luke, Sam, and Alid.
Hello.
How you doing, boys? All right?
All right, how's it going?
Not too bad.
I'm a bit better than now Wales have got a win on the board.
Yeah, definitely. That's the best place to start, I think. So, win against Ireland, good start. Win on the board. So, what are we thinking about the result and the performance? Do you wanna kick us off, Sam?
Right. So, I think, like a lot of other fans, especially on sort of social media, the first. Like the evening after the game, it was just a case of, should we just barely manage that with against 14 men? Looks pretty grim. A win's a win, yeah. So what? But we just by the skin of our teeth we managed that. I think one of the great things about sort of like recording like a few days after the podcast, you let it sink in and you sort of you can analyze it a bit better, and you can try and see some of the positives. So, I mean, defensively, so you compare ourselves that game to earlier in the year against the previous Six Nations or early in the Autumn Nations Cup. Okay, you can look at stats like saying that we missed, I think it was like 26 missed tackles or something like that, something ridiculous. But then you compare that to the total amount of tackles made, which was something like 250 or wherever. That's one hell of a defensive shift, and a lot of them were dominant tackles as well. So I think there's a lot can be said about sort of like the defensive game in terms of the set piece. The scrum is a hell of a lot better. Looking at some of the subs like Leon Brown and Rodri Jones, I thought they're not they don't have a reputation for being good scrummagers, however they are as players. But they held their own. I mean, of course, Omani had been sent off, so some of those scrums were 7-man scrums. So Wyn Jones, he was our he was our first choice loose head for the World Cup. He had a bit of a dip in form last year. But he had, he was man of the match. He made something like 50 meters in the game, which is, apart from George North, he made more meters than any of our backs. It's crazy. So I mean, that's great for him. I think as for like the team as a whole, maybe not so much. But other than that, looking at sort of like if you've made 20 tackles in a game, then you put in a hell of a shift, and there are quite a few players who could have said that last Sunday. I think
Thomas Francis was standing out, wasn't he?
Thomas Francis had about 19 tackles.
He was top of the list at one point. We were all a bit like, what?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think he had 19 tackles, Thomas Francis. He had a great game.
I will tell you now. Yeah, Thomas Francis had 19. Alan Wynne-Jones had 23. Tipperick had 29, who tops it out.
That's good for a front rower as well, to be fair.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Reminds me a bit of Gethin Jenkins used to get a good sort of 20, 30 tackles in a game, didn't he?
Yeah.
You may have noticed as well, we've had an extra person join us late. So this is Kevin making his debut.
Big debut.
Hello, fashionably late. Better late than never.
Yeah.
Save the best till last, apparently. That's the rumours on the street. Good to be on,
We're
boys.
just,
I've been listening to the last few weeks, so I thought, let's get somebody on and talk some sense.
Well, there we are then. Spotlight on you now. So we were just going over like what we thought of the Wales game.
We just started off with the Ireland game from last week. Thoughts on the result and the performance. So, you can go. You can take the next one.
I'll be honest, we're watching the game, I thought, oh God, Wales look quite poor, really. But I thought Ireland, if they had 15 men, probably would have won the game. But on reflection, I think it's a bit of a weird one, because I think when you do get a man sent off, sometimes it galvanises teams. If you remember Ireland, actually, last year or the year before, I think they beat South Africa in South Africa when CJ Stanley got sent off. So that was the first 10, 15 minutes of the game. So Wales could have easily lost that game. I think there's some good positives. Obviously, Lewis Rees-Zammit looked good finish.
Yeah, it was good.
I think George North probably had his best game at centre because I'll be honest, I'm not a George North fan at centre fan because I don't think he runs very good lines for the play in the midfield, but he did actually have a good game, and so I think I wouldn't say we played that expansive rugby that Pivac had at the Scarlets, but a win's a win, and there were some positives on reflection, really.
With George North there, I mean, sort of like one of the questions about him coming from the wing to the centre was sort of like how is he going to be defensively in that 13 channel? And between this game and what was it earlier in the Autumn Nations where he was paired with Johnny Williams? Is that right? Yeah. Whatever game that was, like he's done well. He's sort of with his form with the Ospreys as well. He is in decent form at the moment. He's got a few decent games under his belt at the moment.
No, I was just going to follow on that. I think you're right. He's played really well for the Ospreys. I just say what my worry is when it comes to the really big games, and you've got a proper sort of 12 and 13 who are used to playing with each other. They could possibly target him. I think George North is super quick and super strong, but he's that sort of mould, really. I suppose like a Jamie Roberts. He's going to use his power to get through.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to be dropping through. So if you're a defender, you sort of George North. So I mean, he's that sort of Bundy-Aki, Jamie Roberts mould. I mean, but no, you're right. I think be honest with you, but I think Wales are forced to do it. I don't think we've got very good centre options. I think we've got very strong back row and scrum halves, but centres, get your boots ready, boys. You never know, we might get a few calls away.
We come on to the team selection later. I got written down, but just on the Ireland game, what do you think, Luke?
I think pretty much. I think, like Sam mentioned earlier, the big point really about, and obviously Kevin's touched on it, 40 men obviously has got to be mentioned. And first half, it was a game of two halves really. The first half, like, we looked good, to be honest, before they had a red card. I'm not saying we would have gone on to win because I still don't think we would have. But as soon as they had a red card, we didn't look good at all for that first half. Which, as Kevin said, could be reasons like it's galvanised Ireland. They know they've got to step up. They obviously think they've got to work harder, and we saw that was the case. We were giving away penalties and allowing them to have momentum. So obviously at half-time it was important. We didn't concede again, really, and to keep it down and go in, and obviously Pivac needed to have a talk with them and come out. But then I was thinking about it, because obviously Sam said about it's been a few days after and we've reflected. And I was thinking, like, if you go back to when we had Sam Warburton sent off in the semi-final of the Rugby World Cup, that's a game we should have won, and we would have done had we made our kicks. So say, in an ideal world, the kickers do a little bit better, and we would have won that game. Do you know what I mean? It's the same sort of situation. We've won with 14 men, played out of our skins to do that, and we would have been like very happy with it. And we feel a little bit hard done by that we didn't win that. After the game, we were all a bit gutted. So yeah, it's not necessarily a given that the 14-man team is gonna lose the match.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, I was saying about the red card. I think now, in today's climate, with the laws, with the red card rules, and there's obviously fine lines between people getting red cards now. I think a lot of teams now, especially at the national level, have all got plans drilled into them in case they go down to 14 men, because more likely than not, we're going to see it now, especially with the tackle laws and everything. And I think coupled with that, just after they had the red card or around that sort of time, we were getting a lot of people going down. I know Lydiat went off the knee, and then Johnny Williams had a concussion. And I think it just disjointed the whole game a bit. And I think Ireland just dealt with it better that period than we did. I think they were sort of set up for that.
If I can add to it as well, I mean, looking at the game, like you can look at some games and you can say, all right, that was a game of two halves. With this, you can split it up into 4 quarters. And for the first 20 minutes, Wales did look comfortable. And then after Omani got sent off, as you said, Kev, like it sort of galvanised the team. You look at that second quarter, and I think there was something, like I think what Pivac had mentioned after the game, there were 6 penalties given away in that 20 minutes. There were 3 times the amount of tackles made compared to the rest of the game in just that 20 minutes. So, and then you look on, then the second half, they've obviously had a bollocking in the halftime talks. And then in the last 20, the amount of the amount of tackles they've had to put in, the defensive shift, that's going to wear down a team. Wales dropped off a bit in the last 20 again. And of course, there'd been a few more injuries. They substituted, most importantly, perhaps Sexton had gone off for Billy Burns. And go on to that in a bit. But, I shouldn't laugh. I mean, the guy's probably crushed.
Well, Gareth, what's his name? Gareth Davis, is it?
Yeah,
And
He's
Gareth,
got to
he
be
was the only one.
such a relief. Like, he's got to be such a relieved man, because I have no idea. And I know we're going to touch on this later, but how can you kick that? You've got 10 seconds. Oh my god! Anyway, I think Alan doesn't have to say
that's game, man.
It's been said that Pivot has had stern words with Davis. That's what I've seen, at least.
Yeah, I did see that.
I didn't actually read the article, but that is just completely stupid. I think as a whole, I think you guys have pretty much covered it. I think that first 20 minutes up until O'Mahony got sent off. I mean, he's experienced, but that was just lethal. That's a red, my opinion anyway. And I mean, I think we were fine up until that point. And then I think Ireland's game plan, they've definitely, someone mentioned it, they've definitely had something there that just made them change their game plan, go through the phases, keep it close to hand. And they didn't make
really change their game plan, did they? It was just like they adapted to not having that man.
That's one thing I'd like to say is sort of like you look at who got sent off, Omani. I mean, I think Sam Warburton mentioned it post-match.
Yeah.
I mean, if you lose a loose forward, it doesn't impact your game plan as much. If you were to lose sort of a scrum half or a fly half, or even like a prop, of course, like you'd have to bring down, you'd have to non-contested scrums. But losing a loose forward, you don't, it doesn't affect your game plan as much. And one thing as well about that as well is going down to 14 men. It's a much more difficult in defence than it is on the offence. And it's because Ireland had the ball, they had, something like 65% possession or wherever it was. It's not going to impact them as much going down to 14 men. I mean, that's one of the big things about... Yeah, go on.
No, I should say just in the back of that as well, I think you're completely right. I think, in all honesty, I actually thought it changes Wales' game plan. Because I actually thought Wales started quite well when it was 15 against 15. And sometimes when a team gets a player sent off, the other team actually tries to spread it too much.
Yeah.
And actually try and utilise it. So I think Wales' game plan wasn't probably to play as expansive rugby against Ireland, obviously try to play a bit more than they have done in the past. But sometimes when you got the extra man, you start, our game plan went out the window, it looked like, and we were start thinking, right, we've got to utilise this extra man out in the wings. But you're right what you say, because it's a back row player, you can sort of, close them gaps a little bit easier. So I think Wales, especially from the first half, I think they tried forcing it too much. And then the second half, give Ireland their credit. They knew they had to keep. If you've got the ball, the other team can't score any points, and that's what they did. They looked like they didn't want to keep the ball away too much because they know they had a player less. But I think it's a learning curve for Wales. But I think about Gareth Davis and things like that. I think Wales fell over the line, didn't they? I don't think we put our hand up and won the game. It was Ireland have did everything their best and they give it to us, didn't they?
Alid, you used to play rugby, didn't you? I don't know if you still do.
Yeah.
I
used to. I don't anymore.
Where was you playing on the wing?
Fullback.
Were you ever in a situation where someone's got sent off on your team and you've ended up in a scrum or something?
What do you mean?
I've ended up as a 9. That's the closest I've ended up to a scrum, to be honest. As a 9.
Videos of Johnny May, is it? What are they you're after?
Have you seen that? When he tries to get it. And Kev, I played against Kevin a few times and with him. Were you playing for Dunvan then with me when Alloy had the red card in that cup game?
Yeah, I think I was.
You played for Dunvan?
Yeah.
And didn't we have was it a red card when we played you once as well? I can't remember, my memory's awful.
Yeah, when I was playing with Arja, we were only a game away from a red card. Jesus Christ, the people like us to bring a fifth there, but. Yeah, I played. I know, It's obviously different on our levels, but it does make a difference. I think it's, I say, if you've got quick players and you've got a really good set of backs who can make it work. So that maybe, you think of Wales and the space they had, they could have made it work. It just unfortunately it didn't go to plan, did it?
Aled, you were Dunvant as well, weren't you?
Yeah,
You're all Dunvant. Different age bracket, though.
I don't actually recall having a red. Oh no, I remember one red card for one of the forwards stamping on a certain area of one of the other players.
Oh, nice.
After he injured one of our players, so it was just like pure retaliation. He just saw the opportunity to stamp. Instant
get away with
card,
that sort of thing and get away with that in grassroots.
But,
was it on the red card?
That's about the only red card I remember.
On the red card, what's everybody's thoughts? Was it definite red? I know Ossie was it. Do you think it was a bit hard done by?
I watched
watching the video on normal time.
No, I watched Nigel Owens on Scrum 5, and he said he's got a bit of history of doing that sort of thing. Not lethal in a way like he means to injure someone, but maybe the technique being a bit wrong. But I think in the laws now you can't make contact with the head, can you? So,
I mean, he did it about 5 months ago at Parker Scarlets.
I think he mentioned that actually.
Omani, he's a great player, but he has got a reputation of, I don't want to say dirty. I don't think it was malicious. I think it was just dangerous and awkward.
Yeah.
But you don't go flying into rucks like that. You should know better as an international, flanker.
I don't think he made the effort for the actual clear out very well. But if you don't, I can't even remember who he hit in the face with his shoulder.
Tom Francis, wasn't it?
Tom Francis, yeah.
But where Tom Francis actually landed, if he was on his feet, because someone was also, trying to ruck over. If Tom Francis wasn't actually there, that isn't a red card because he obviously hasn't hit the face of a player. But he should have been paying attention enough to have seen the fact that, there was a player there. I don't think he looked up, to be perfectly honest.
How many of you actually noticed it in normal time, though?
We were watching it on stream together like this, and because was the ref Wayne Barnes?
Yeah,
because we saw it, and then we were like, "What the hell?" And then Wayne Barnes said something like, "It's just a contact play on or something. It was just a ruck play on," and we literally went mad. We were like, "What the hell?" And then obviously TMO brought it up, and it ended up being a red card because he's seen it again. So we to be fair, we did actually notice it.
I'll be honest, I didn't notice it in normal time.
I said I noticed it in normal time, but that's because I was watching stream with Luke and a few other guys, and I had a 5-minute delay. So I was waiting for it anyway.
He was ready in the shower by then, mate.
But he was watching it on.
He was ready in the shower.
On the internet. We were watching on telly, so there's obviously a time difference and how it shows. But I think one of the other boys who's not here now, Josh, was just he noticed it straight away. So I noticed that there was the contact there. Didn't really necessarily see how bad it was until the replay, but he was going mad. He was going mad, and the fact that Wayne Barnes said it's nothing.
I'll just push us on a bit. I think you said what I was going to say. I think when I picked it up on the they got the mic on the ref, haven't they? Yeah. And you can hear Thomas Francis sort of shout to that clear out, and I thought, that looks a bit dodgy. I can't believe looking back at the replay, little Barnes has just waved it off. It looks like, I know he's gone in quite hard for the clear out. He definitely sort of chicken wings his arm, doesn't he? Just to make sure he makes contact with his head. So it was stupid, really. But I think anyway, summing up the game, I think positives. I think come out well second half. Good finish from Zamet. Good try from North. I think, as you said, probably the best game we've seen him play at 13. And I think he still shows that he is a finisher, even though he picks, even at centre, even if he does move back out of the wing. I think he's still got that capability to finish, like he did. Tiprick, we mentioned, probably saves the game with that tackle at the end with Ringrose going through. Because he's in there. It looks like he's under the sticks when he makes that tackle. That's it. I think win's a win. If you look back to 2019, when it won the Grand Slam.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Hello. Special guest.
Sure. Yeah, special guest.
Hello.
I just say win's a win. If you look back to 2019 when we won the Grand Slam. We were awful in our first game against France. Literally, we had a gift of a win with Uge making that mistake and the interception, and we went on to win the Grand Slam. So who knows?
Yeah.
So the only other
You saying it's a Grand Slam, Lee? Just to get you on record.
That's not what you said last week.
we'll hold off on that until later. The only other thing I wanted to mention, which we didn't touch on much, was the line out.
Oh, it's awful.
I think like in the autumn, it was obviously poor, and I think Ryan Elias was sort of made a bit of a scapegoat that was the problem. But we saw more of the same, especially in the Island game. And I think the one that really annoyed me was like straight after the Omani red card, and he is one of their line out jumpers. Straight after the red card, we had a line out and lost it again, and the lost line out led to the try as well, just before the end of the first half. And you can't compete at this level without a set piece, and I think that is our downfall at the moment. So I don't know what you boys think.
I think, as you said, like with Ryan Elias, but not just Ryan Elias. It was also mine's gone blank. Sam Parry was another one, and through the autumn Nations Cup, there were 3 hookers. Went for the 3 of them. The line out was poor with all of them, and it's the same thing with Ken when he's brought back in. So I think with the forwards coach Jonathan Humphreys, there's something that needs to be, he's going to be put under pressure here, isn't he? And I think even with Ken Owens, they had been a bit more conservative, a bit more safer. Like they'd gone straight for the first man. And you got to look at sort of like with Ireland, they've got James Ryan. They brought in Paul O'Connell as the forwards coach, isn't he? Yeah. And you can see they're going to have a solid line out. So I mean. Yeah. That's tough to go against anyway. You can see like the way there's nothing wrong with them playing it safe, playing it to the first man, taking it straight out, just have the quick throw in. So that they have learnt. I mean, it's not a bad thing. But do we concede something like four line outs, or was it more? Was it 6 line out?
No, it was 3. So we won 11, lost 3. They won 7, lost 1.
Right. I am sort of surprised with that. I mean, sort of like even then, sort of like Ken Owens, who's been with us for years. We have seen great lineouts with him, and Adam Beard, who's a lanky bastard. I mean, you think the lineout will be all right, but something's not going right there in camp. It's not a problem with the individuals. It's that there's something wrong. They need to train better.
I think as well. And I actually think Wales' lineout's been a bit dodgy for a long time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm sure we were going short into Catalan for a while, weren't we? So.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Sometimes when it's not going well, you've got to mix it up. You've got to go to a 5-man lineout, which they've done at the Gatland a few times, and just make it a 1-pod jumper. And I said straight ball and just win the first man. But what's frustrating for Wales is it's not so much we're losing lineouts. We lose lineouts in such crucial times.
Yeah.
How many times have we had a penalty at halfway? We've kicked it to the 22, and then we have a real chance to put points on the board. And then we lose that lineout. That's what's frustrating.
Yeah.
We lose, and then I'm nervous every time we've got a lineout on our own 22. I'm panicking. I'm thinking, God, this is 50-50 here. I mean, when we do win it, it looks like it's either overthrown or they're not communicating properly. But I can surely at this sort of level in Test rugby, at the really top levels, if you lose one line out a game, you can guarantee the forwards coaches are pulling you back and asking about why was that one dropped. But Wales have got some games I think we lost 4 or 5 and things like that, and you just think you just can't do that at this level, don't you?
I think with Gatland's game plan as well, a bad line out. Whereas with Bibak, you compare his game with like when he was coaching the Scarlets. I think sort of you need that possession. You can't afford to give up any possession at all. And it's when we are conceding lineouts like that, we can't work with that. Like
doesn't really help.
It's just struggle to.
Right then, I'll push it. Are you Alid or Luke? Or add anything about
I think it's.
the lineout?
I'm not an expert. I just don't think it's good enough, is it? If you want to be competitive, you need to be winning them, and especially when it's like from a penalty. You're not really you're not benefiting straight away. You've just lost your good position, like the one from the red card that you mentioned. That's like, okay, they've had a red card. Let's punish them twice, but what happened was they won the line out, and then we didn't get the ball for the rest of the half. And that's literally, you could say, it comes from that one line out. It could have been we won the line out and attacked and got some points. Completely changed the game then.
Yeah, I think the 3 that we lost were in crucial spots. Like what Kev said. Like the 3 we lost, I'm pretty sure 2 were near their 22, I think, off the top of my head. And I think 1 might have been in our half somewhere. I can't remember.
I mean, it sounds right, because we spent most of that game in our 22. So,
Yeah.
it really sounds right.
Right, so we'll move on to the Scotland game then. I think we've dissected that game pretty well, I think. Just a little chat on the team selection quickly, because it's come out today. I couldn't believe how many injuries we've got, and I've got them here. I probably missed some off, but we got Josh Adams is out with the COVID, obviously breaking the protocols. North is injured, Jonathan Davis, Amos, Johnny Williams, Lydiot. Obviously looks like Navidi now as well, because he's not even on the bench. And then they've called up both Hal Holo and Lloyd Williams, haven't they?
Yeah.
With all the injuries we had, I was thinking that we were going to be weakened quite significantly, and I thought, oh my God, we're missing all these players. I actually think, looking at the starting 15, it wasn't as bad as I thought. But then I think the bench is a bit weaker. So what do you boys think? Are you thinking that's the best we've got at the moment, or is there anything you would have done differently, or is it just, that's the hand we're dealt at the moment? Alan, do you want to go first?
I think that's sort of, he's probably called in the best he can. I think Liam Williams has come back, as far as I can tell. So, I mean, that's a positive, but he's probably going to be on the wing, I imagine.
Yeah, he's on the wing.
Because Halfpenny's still in the team. Don't think I've ever known Halfpenny to play anywhere else except 15.
No, he started on the wing back in the day.
Oh yeah, other than the wing, 15. But who can actually slip into that 13 role?
I haven't seen the bench. Team, but
I mean, with the Saracens, of course, you had typically you had Owen Farrell at 12. You had Nick Tompkins at 13. I think originally started at 12. He was brought back, and it's mostly sort of like Owen Watkins had always been at 12. And to see Nick Tompkins at 12 now for this game, and Owen Watkins at 13, I guess was like sort of it did sort of like strike me when I saw that. But I mean, the way I see it is Owen Watkins has been a bit more better. He has been a bit more better defensively. So compared to Nick Tompkins, so like you can see sort of like where they're going to target that 13 channel. I think Owen Watkins is a better choice for 13 there. But it's a problem I think Wales has had where they've switched around different positions, sort of like inside centre, outside centre. It means the same thing, blah blah blah. And you sort of again with loose head, tight head. What we've seen with Rodri Jones and. It's not. There are different positions. There are different roles for those positions, and I don't know how much that messes with the players. But I think moving. I think that is the right decision. I think because we're stuck for choice for centres. I think Owen Watkins at 13 and Nick Tompkins at 12 is the better. With Halaholo being brought in as well on the bench, I think that he's a great player. I mean, I'm quite excited to see what he can do at when he's brought in. The only game he's had is when we played against the Barbars, and fine enough, that's probably one of our best wins. And Gatland was coaching the Barbars.
So I think it is a bit of that's the best we've got at the moment. What about you, Kev? Are you thinking that's anything you would have changed, or is that just what we got?
No, I think his hand was forced with the injuries. But I said it doesn't look, to be fair, with the injuries we've got, it is quite a strong team out. And jumping on the back, you just said there with Willis, I don't know how to pronounce his name. Is it Halolo or
Halaholo?
Halahulu.
So he's a real player. He's a really good player. And I'll be honest with him, he'll be coming into this camp thinking, do what, there's a real opportunity for me here to be starting for Wales. Because if you look at Pivac, let's be honest, Jonathan Davis is probably nailed on fully fit when he gets back to his best.
Yeah.
He's playing George North here because I don't think Nick Tompkins or Owen Watkin have put their hand up and said this Welsh jersey's mine. Willis will come in, and I'm quite excited to see him on the bench and coming in, because I think he can make a real impact. And when fully fit, he might be a dime. He's only 30 years old. He's old enough to make the next World Cup. So who knows? But other than that, I think I think we were limited. But you look at the back three: Reece Ammett, Ian Williams, Halfpenny. A strong back three. Do you know what I mean? I think Josh Adams probably would have got the nod over Reece Ammett if able to play. But you can't, I think it's strong. I mean, I think Wales have got good enough.
Controversial,
Yeah,
but I would
just
drop
halfway.
Halfpenny and put Liam Williams full back and play Josh Adams instead of Halfpenny.
I got to agree with you on that one,
Wow.
because I think Williams, when fit and fully, on form, is probably one of the best 15s in the world. And he's
Is
got to
he
push.
fully fit?
Gatland picked him a 15. The Lions ahead of
The Lions.
Halfpenny, didn't he? So I think that I would do the same as well. I would push, if anybody has to drop out, I would be pushing Halfpenny to the win.
But then
The
at the
challenge
same
against
time,
I mean,
to trust Dan
like-
at the kick.
Halfpenny hasn't been to any gender reveal party. So,
yeah, true. Yeah.
Yeah. In regards to the team, I think there's not much really else going for bringing in. I think people say like Webb and Roberts, Jamie Roberts, but we're going to be looking for the future if we're going to bring people in. That's like, you're just bringing in people to cover if you're bringing them in, which if you need to do that, fair enough, but you may as well trial people that you have at least a little bit of hope you might get into the squad before a World Cup, I think, at this point. And I don't think Jamie Roberts is
Because I
going to
think
be
Jamie
there,
Roberts,
or Webb.
yeah. No, I think he's 35 now, isn't he? So I think
Yeah.
I think unfortunate, because he has actually been playing well for the Dragons,
Yeah.
but see,
Yeah.
he must know now his time has gone for Wales, unfortunately, because if you're not
Yeah.
getting picked now with the injuries we've got, I think
No,
that ship
I
has
just think
sailed,
it's too
doesn't it?
far.
I
Like,
think,
you're not going to play him in the next World Cup, so just use that opportunity to call someone else that might come good by then. Like, maybe they won't have the best game now, but if they could have a year or two in the camp before the World Cup, then there could be someone that's a good option by then. I think it's better to do stuff like that.
speaking of like older players versus younger players as well, how many people were saying last weekend how Dan Lydiot should have been how he should have been brought in for Shane Hughes or for
Both of them.
Botham, yeah.
James Botham, is it?
Yeah. How bad that looks now. Like, I mean, sort of like Dan Lydiot. I mean, he made 7 tackles in that first 12 minutes. You shit out. All of them were like dominant tackles. Just back to his sort of like trademark sort of short tackles, taking out CJ Sanders, fucking ruining them. And I think if he went on without that injury, I think he's sticking his hand right up, wasn't he? Like, I mean, all these people who were criticising him before the match, he was out there to make a statement, and unfortunately, wherever he overexerted himself, but he's ruined himself. ACL now, that's his
Probably
career
done,
gone.
That's
I
a
don't
season
disagree.
for me.
Yeah, that was such a shame, them getting injured, because I think he was playing class. He actually looked, like you said, I think he looked back to his sort of old self playing for Wales in that first couple of minutes. I think he was class.
I don't disagree with what you said, though. Like, the older person coming in, like, it's not a problem doing that, but if you're going to call up cover that you didn't pick him essentially in the first place, I just think it's an opportunity to trial someone new.
Yeah.
I think, I agree.
It's a balance, I think, isn't it? Because I say it's a balance, because I think you've got to. It's good trying people new, but then I says sometimes as well, you've got to think of, well, actually, we want to win games because you're going to into World Cup. Right, you might have tried loads of. You want to know the year before World Cup, really. You want to know who your starting 15 is and what players, and really people fight for the bench places, don't they? But I said, at the same time, though, if you're old enough, as this Willis hello now, I said he's going to be old enough for the World Cup, so he's they don't need to be young and trial them. They can be old players.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I meant like not.
Is
I don't think Jamie Roberts will be like 37, is he, by the time the World Cup comes?
Oh, yeah.
So I just feel like when you're at that point where you're going to be out of the picture, it's how it works.
Bringing him in now
cycles.
is kind of pointless.
That's what I was getting at. Like, obviously with Halahulu, he'll still be in the picture potentially. So that's
I think
good option.
He's 30 now.
Yeah, I think going forward, we're strapped with injuries at the moment, and the centre position is something that is a bit worrying. Like I said last week, I don't like shoehorning North into the centre, but I think I can agree with you boys. I'm in the camp that don't call Jamie Roberts up. I know it's tempting, but we've got Johnny Williams, we've got Jonathan Davis, you've got Hal Holo come in, Tompkins as well. There's 4 centres there that we're going to go with, I think, and maybe doing a disservice to Owen Watkin as well. But I think if Hal Holo comes in and performs, he's probably. I think Watkins just on the outside of that. So we've got 5 centres there.
Kieran Williams as well for the Ospreys.
Yes.
Been playing well.
Yeah.
Someone to keep an eye out of.
Yeah,
good show.
So he's in a couple more. Maybe this time next year he'd be around the squad.
I
As
think,
well.
he's only like 20 years old, but I mean he's definitely one to watch. Like he's going to be a great player. Hopefully, fingers crossed.
I got one more thing that I want to mention about the team, though.
I have one as well.
I think Dan Bigger is I think we miss an Anscombe a lot. I think Pivac would have been perfect for his style of play. Obviously, he's not been around the entire time because of that injury. We still haven't seen him since, but it's just so unfortunate. I think it would have been so much more helpful for Pivac to have someone like Anscombe available from day one to play his style. More so than what Anscombe did for Gatland, because I think Anscombe suits Pivac more. And I don't know, Bigger, I haven't seen much from him in a Wales shirt for a while now, personally.
I think with that's it. He's got Callum Sheedy and Jared Evans on the bench. He's got the players, I think, to do it. I think, unfortunately for Pivac, is the results haven't gone the way he was hoping. He hasn't got the luxury of trying more things out now.
Yeah.
Because he's probably, if he lost on Saturday, I think push would have come to shove, and he might have been 1 or 2 losses away from the sack. So you've got to go for the trial and tested then, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean that's why you bring in a player like Lydiot. I mean, rather than Shane Hughes or I mean, it's you want someone with a bit more experience and tried and tested. Yeah.
I've never been a massive fan of Bigger. Anyway, I've never been a big fan. I'd like to see him play a bit more Sheedy, but I think for ages I wasn't a fan. But I think last sort of couple of years and the World Cup since Anscombe's injury, I think he did a job. He has sort of slotted in. He's done a job. But I would like to see him feed a bit more of Jared Evans and Sheedy into the squad. Sorry, Alec, what were we going to say? What was the next bit?
I was going to sort of move a concern on about Gareth Davis. I swear, every time he had the opportunity last game, he would just box kick. We could be in the 22 and he would box kick. I think that's all his game is.
He's got a snipe in, to be fair to him, sometimes.
In the 22, gives it.
That's why I said sometimes. We're not up there enough for him to do it.
But
he was a bit poor the other day.
Box kick, and that box kick. I know I'm going back to the last game, but box kick with 10 seconds left.
It was like a grubber, wasn't it? Or something.
No, whatever it was. He just kicks the ball away. All we needed to do was, give it back to Bigger and kick it out.
To be fair to Bigger, he went mad on him on the pitch. As soon as he kicks the ball, he's going mad. So credit Bigger there. Not writing Bigger off or anything. I just don't think we're doing much attacking. But
I think it's the way Ireland play as well. I mean, Conor Murray is the biggest box kicker on earth, isn't he? The way Ireland play, and it's kind of matching it, isn't it? So I don't know what sort of game plan we're trying to implement. We're probably trying to match them. For Ireland have used the box kick for years to try and get field position. That's what they do. So I don't know if they're trying to match. We're trying to match that.
When they were in last game, when we were in last game, we needed the possession. We didn't need to give the possession away because they were applying the pressure, even as 14 men. So for every time that we had the ball secure for him just to box kick it away, I mean that's my only concern as well going into probably the Scotland game is how many times is he going to box kick the ball away?
Right, and I'll push us on again then. So we've I think we're sort of in agreement that that's the best side that we've got at the moment. I was surprised actually. Something that I had written down was I saw earlier there was 865 caps in that squad, which was surprising considering that we are trying.
Probably half of them are from Alan Jones.
So there is, he takes up most of them, but there is a bit of experience in there. So moving on to the Scotland game, quick predictions from everyone. Then, what are we thinking about this game? I don't know. Who wants to go first? Ali, do you want to go first?
I think it's either going to be relatively close game, or we're going to get absolutely smashed.
Oh, so
It's
the
either
most
going to be a close
broad
game and a win, or
prediction.
absolutely. I don't know. Come back to me. Let me have a think about it, and let me listen to some opinions. I haven't really thought about
I'll
it.
go then. I'm going to say I think we're going to lose because I think Scotland might actually be the first Grand Slam of Six Nations for them. I think they're going to do it. They look good.
I'm going to stick my neck out and go Wales win.
I hope I'm wrong.
A horrible performance on Saturday. But it's not so much on the performance. Don't get me wrong. I watched the Scotland-England game, and Scotland looked very, very good. And I think if you asked me to put my mortgage on it, I would definitely probably put it on Scotland more than Wales. But I actually think, as they say in boxing, styles makes fights. And I think Wales will play. We play that sort of up through the middle, crash the ball up with big boys, and that's what I think Scotland lack. They got good back row in Ritchie and what's his name? Denton, not Denton. Sorry, with
Hamish
Watson. Sorry, but I think Wales will make it a bit of a smug fest. It won't be an attractive game at all. But I think Wales will probably outkick him in points wise. Finn Russell is one of them. If you target him, he is either red hot, stone cold some games. But he has that magic, do you know what I mean? So I'm going to stick out a Wales win by sort of maybe 2 scores, so maybe 6 points. There we go, boys.
Look, I hope Wales win, and I hope I'm wrong. And to be fair, like sometimes you end up winning a tournament off a scrap. You win like what we won off Ireland, and we've done it before in the past. And it could just be a turning point now, and end up being like a good era for PVAC because of that result. But I don't know, Scotland. I feel like even though our win against Ireland was scrappy and good in the end because of what happened and we needed it, it's kind of the same for Scotland against England with their circumstances and how when they've last won at Twickenham. And I just think I have not seen Scotland look this good and positive probably ever since I've watched rugby.
Well, I'll start off by saying sort of like, all right, last week I said Ireland would win by about 10. So this week I'll say, all right, Scotland will win by 10. Hopefully that'll. What you were saying, Kev, where Scotland was saying sort of like where we have a bigger team to sort of like bully them. Sort of, I think England with Eddie Jones, I think he very much went in with that sort of intention. Where like you look at how like he's got like 1 or 2 teams basically, and you look at specifically the centres where he'll either have Farrell at 10 or 12. And if he has sort of Farrell at 12, he'll have Ford at 10 and then a bigger centre at 13. Or we'll have Farrell at 10 and then sort of bigger centres at 12 and 13, which is what he did against Scotland, thinking, all right, we're going to bully this team. So he had Ollie Robinson at 12 and then what was it at 13? Slade was it? But yeah, sort of bigger players to sort of bully the Scottish team. I think the Scottish team knew that. I think Gregor Townsend sort of knew that, and they were able to circumvent that anyway. So I don't think I'm not necessarily think that Pivac, if he goes into this game thinking that he can do the same thing, I don't think it's the right game plan.
But I think looking back to when we played them in the autumn, they beat us up front there, didn't they? Which was the first time in a while they've done that.
Yeah. Which
the autumn game, I think, was Wales had just done a 6 or 7 game losing streak. I don't think it was any sort of positives to take, but not taking away from Scotland's win game. Yeah. I think where England got it wrong was England relied so much on front forward ball off Billy Vunipola that he literally is such a physical point in their game. And their back row, they have Wilson, who normally ball carries. Sam Underhill's a good ball carrier. Tom Curry's normally a good ball carrier. When they play, if they're not firing their back row, it just slogged the whole of England. Their backs, and they have no sort of good platform. I tell you who I was really impressed by on Saturday. One of the positives in Wales was Toby Faletau. I thought he looked exactly back to the old Toby Faletau. When he played his first game back for Wales after the injury, I thought he looked about a stone on the weight. I don't think he looked quite the same. But on Saturday, he was putting in tackles everywhere. He was carrying the ball strong, and I think he'll play a massive role on Saturday against Scotland. And I think that's fine, given Wales.
It will come on to England in a bit, but what were you saying for your prediction, Sam?
Yeah. So last week I said win by 10 points. So this week I'm going to say Scotland are going to win.
Oh, you did say actually. Yeah, sorry.
But I think looking at sort of like historical results as well, Scotland have always had one good result in the Six Nations. So I mean, fingers crossed. Like a part of their sort of game plan, it always clicks within. So if everything goes right, they get a great result. Yeah. So I mean, fingers crossed. Hopefully,
that was it.
That was a good game. Yeah.
Well,
that's as a coach, you don't want to sort of base your game plan around that. Like, but like Finn Russell is always unpredictable. Same as Ali Price as well. Really, I don't have too much faith and I have too much stock in the Welsh team at the moment. But we won't write them completely off.
What's your prediction?
Did you say yours, Alid? Or did you wanted to come back?
Wanted to come back. You can.
I'll go next then. Like you said, it's good having the benefit of a couple of days after the game, because after the Ireland game, I was thinking Scotland win, banker. I was thinking, actually, looking at the side that we put out, and someone put a tweet out earlier saying, "No, I can't wait for Hal Holo to come off the bench and score the winner." I'm actually starting to get a bit fired up about the game, and I think it's going to be. I actually think it's going to be close. I mean, between us, we've got like Scotland win, Wales win. Nobody can really call it at the moment. I think push for one. I'm going to go like Scotland by like 3 or 4. Really real close game. It's going to be a bit of a dogfight. It's going to be a bit different to obviously the game we played on Sunday. I think Hamish Watson's going to occupy Tipuric a bit more. We saw Tipuric sort of popping up in in the centre position sometimes, playing some lovely balls. I think he'd be occupied a bit more, the breakdown with Watson. I think it's tight one. Scotland by 5.
Am I the only one that's still for Wales?
I still haven't made up my mind, but I'm definitely saying it's going to be a couple of points either side. I think like that.
So which one are you going with then? No
I'm going to go with Wales, but by a couple of points. I'm not going to say it's going to be like
points, but
like a 20-point margin or something like that. I think it's going to be within a 10 point between the teams, maybe at most. I'd probably argue for less, but it's definitely going to be a close one. I think.
I'm going 19-12 Scotland.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm like sort of probably on the fence, and I'm just going to edge Scotland by 5. But I think, like I said, Wales was shit in the first game in 19, and then pushed on and looked good. I'm not going to say Grand Slam yet, but and I think if you think, I know Scotland did play well against England. I'm taking nothing against them. They've been knocking on the door for a while. Some of the decision making, you can tell they're not used to winning the big games, because England were dog shit in that game. I think any other team, France, even Wales, Ireland, would have put them to the sword. And I think so many opportunities, they had penalties in England's 22 and didn't just tick the scoreboard over. And they went for the corner. And then they were 50 metres out, and then they decided to go for goal and missed it. They just kept England in the game for so long, and they nearly, at the end with the drop goal, England nearly caught it and went up the other end, didn't they? But they deserved to win. But I'm saying, it wasn't. They don't manage the game that way. You can tell they're not used to winning those big games. But maybe that will be the catalyst. That'll push them on a bit.
It's a really big game as well, because whoever wins has a crack at the Triple Crown. Do you know what I mean? Both have beaten someone in the Triple Crown already. So I think I think Wales have no pressure whatsoever. No one's expecting Wales to go to Murrayfield and beat them, especially after the performance they've got. But if Wales win that game, Pivac will be thinking, he's our chance here to win a Triple Crown at home against England. He's in the good books then. We're all telling, all the articles are going on about how well Pivac has changed Welsh rugby.
Wales won on my birthday.
He'll really get him up for that game on Saturday. I think Wales will surprise us how well they all play. Whether that's enough, who knows? But I think it'll be a better decision be a better performance than the Ireland game, certainly.
Just to finish us off, then I was gonna let's have a look at the rest of the round 2 fixtures and see if any of our sort of early tournament predictions have changed, or if you still think as it was. I know
I can't remember what I said.
Shit. Let's
That
start
wasn't
with
here, so I didn't make one.
start with probably the biggest game of the weekend, Ireland and France on Sunday. Are we thinking Ireland to bounce back at home looking better, or are we thinking France just as they were
Who's
dominating?
home?
What are we saying?
Who's home?
Ireland home.
I don't know. I think France still. I had France to win the tournament, and I know I just said I can see Scotland Grand Slam, which maybe I can, but like Scotland France, if that is the case, I just wouldn't even want to call that. But I think France is just looking good, isn't they? Can't see Ireland beating France even if they played like with 15 men like they did last week. I still think France's attack is just on point at the moment.
I know France have been good, but you also have to remember that they were against Italy, which is a very young side.
Yeah, I'm not basing it just on that.
Very new. So
looking at like the Italy squad, I think just purely at the backs, the most experienced back had 8 caps, and the rest of the sort of squad combined, the rest of the backs combined, 16 caps between them.
Wasn't one of them Welsh?
So,
the scrum half.
What's
Varney.
that?
Scrum half is
Varney.
Welsh.
He's Welsh, isn't he?
Yeah.
Commanding boy, isn't he?
Really.
So
did he miss out on Wales?
What are you saying?
Should have replaced Davis.
You would never get in.
Because you know that
Never
good.
get a 9 spot, would you, for Wales?
Well, I mean, plenty of players, slip past the net. I mean, look how many players now we're crawling we've had to pull back from England. Like, it's plenty of players slip past the nest.
What are we saying then, Kev? What do you reckon for Ireland and France? What are we calling?
Yeah, I'm going France. They were my shout to win the Six Nations. I'm just trying to look at their fixtures now, actually, and looking at it, they'll say they play England away and Ireland away. So they need to win at least one of them games to, you'd expect them to win their home games. I know it's not fans and stuff now, but you'd expect them to win their home. I actually think they'd be comfortable. I think I'm going to go there for France, and I think they'll do one by a good sort of 15, possibly 20 points. I think they'll really go for the kill in here and lay a marker down.
It's a big show.
Yeah, I think France are going to turn up and probably do a session on them. So, yeah, big a comfortable France win for me.
Okay, Sam, we see we're going France win as well.
France win, yeah. I think you look at the Autumn Nations Cup as well. I think that final is like the France side was a very young side and they were decimated by injuries. I think the only players that are missing now is Natamak and Vakatawa, isn't it? We were saying last week, and I think that, against Italy as well. I think they were very conservative. I think they played a very safe game, and it was Italy and it was a younger Italy squad anyway. But as I said last week, I think France were my favourites to win, and I think they'll win comfortably. I think England, will be hurting after last weekend, but I think France will have it anyway. I think
it's Ireland in Ireland.
Ireland. Oh fuck. But same. I mean, Ireland will be hurting as well. Yeah, fuck down. Yeah. Ireland will be hurting.
Ali, what do you think?
I know it is away. And to be honest, I haven't looked at the highlights. I didn't even consider looking at the highlights because they were just, 50-point game, I think it was, wasn't it? Or something like that. I just didn't bother. But
yeah, fair enough.
I think it might not be as far-fetched as Kevin said with a 20-point gap. But it's probably going to be... I think it's definitely a France winner.
Clean sweep.
Fair enough. We'll come to me now for the clean sweep. No, I think I do fancy France. I think Dupont again. We could go on all day about how good he is, and Dulin was good as well, and Jalibert coming in instead of Intermac. They're just proper playing rugby again. It's just a joy to watch. But just going to put a bit of a caveat on it. I know everybody's sort of penciling in France to win the tournament now, but I think they've got one bad game in them somewhere. I know they play this lovely flowing rugby, but they've got one bad game in them somewhere. Whether it comes on Sunday against Ireland, I don't think it will. I think they will beat Ireland on Sunday, but they've got one bad game in them. They should have won it last year. Apart from idiot red card against Scotland away.
It was just points difference, wasn't it?
I think they both. Yeah, but they should have won the Grand Slam, shouldn't they? They had the red
Yeah.
card against Scotland and they win.
He picked that guy up
Scotland
and just threw him over on the floor. Or something after the tackle.
punched someone, then he just threw a punch.
Yeah.
I was thinking of.
I don't know. I think clean sweep. We'll go France, but I think the tournament is still open at the moment.
Scotland did a great game that game, didn't they? If I remember.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did play well.
So, I mean, like as I've said before, like sort of Scotland always have at least one great game in them. And I think that was the game last year, wasn't it? So not
I think as well.
Yeah,
I was going to say, I think everyone's writing off England as well. Like,
yeah, no, I got to come.
As much as we're Welsh and we all, not that we want to give them credit, but they lost one game last year, and they still won it. So, they probably. Well, I can see him coming back, in honesty. If you ask me Wales' best performance or England's best performance, England are a better team than us. So I think they will be confident coming to the Millennium. It's not right off England yet because they'll be coming back stronger.
Yeah, I was gonna just move on to England next, and like you said, I agree with you. I picked England last week and I got slated because they lost, and because I said they might win the tournament because they got France at home, and like you said, I was thinking they lost the first game last year and everybody was writing them off. And again, I think France have got one bad game in them. Maybe it comes against England at Twickenham. So I don't think write them off just yet. Maybe the Saracens' sort of rustiness will shake off. I know they've put Farrell out to 12 now, and Ford has come in. And they made a couple of changes. I know I said they'll do back up to beat Italy, won't we? But yeah, I don't think write them off yet. I think it's going to come down to that England-France game at Twickenham.
Yeah, I said in my predictions France to win, and when I made a prediction last week, I was expecting Grand Slam, so obviously last week's results fit the narrative of what I've said. But I think I had England second, so could come down to that match. The only reason I'm saying today, obviously, is Scotland. I just think it's their best shout for years to do something. It's just something that you've got to be considerate of, and I'm calling them to win against Wales, and again, it's not something they've done much lately, so if they did manage to do that, they're obviously in the picture. So I don't know when they're playing France, but you just can't really call it. I think it's tight all round, and it seems last year it's probably another one of them years where it's quite likely that you're not going to get a Grand Slam winner potentially.
I think everybody will lose at least one. I can't see anybody winning the Grand Slam. Maybe France. If I had to pick one team to do it, maybe France, because they probably got it in and they beat England and Twickenham.
But to answer Lee's question, though, I don't need to say much about it, but I think England will beat Italy. Do I need to say much, really?
No.
No, I think the main question with England, I don't know what you boys think, is there? It's probably jumping the gun a bit, but is there? Is this problem in the camp? Are they on a downfall, or is it just a blip? Do we think they were awful against Scotland? They were all really bad.
I think part of it is that they've, as always, I think it's always been the case, England are always overhyped. I think I never thought that England were that good. I think they'd had a few decent results. And I think when you look at
What's the comment that is?
Yeah. I think I suppose as an excuse, I could say they lost Eddie Jones for 2 weeks because he had tested positive for coronavirus. But I think even then, they beat France and in the autumn internationals, and it was a very young and heavily injured France side. I don't think they were that brilliant. They only just beat them.
Oh.
Yeah. Fucking England.
Okay, unpopular opinion.
I think I'm going to go completely opposite. I think, obviously, I agree to disagree, but I think England were a top team. You look at the last 3 tournaments they've won 2 of them, and the one they lost was a World Cup final. So I think they're a really, really top team. I think it's a blip. I think it's a 1 game off. Okay, they lost to Scotland. England is a big game, isn't it? It's a derby, it's the Calcutta Cup. They'll come back stronger. I think the Saracens boys haven't played much rugby. And they've been rested in the Championship. But they've got a depth of talent in that team.
That's the thing.
Unfortunately, Wales have got them to play. I think you can guarantee one thing: they'll have a reaction on Saturday. Eddie Jones will whip them boys round. But by the time they play Wales, they'll be well up for it and they'll be in the mix. So I actually think we're probably going to play them a at the wrong time. I think whoever played them first, we probably had the best time to play them.
But I got a question
for a
though.
while.
Is Eddie Jones now? Has he been found out? Like,
Nah, come on. He's won. He's lost one game to Scotland.
I'm just asking
You
the question.
You just said yourself, Scotland are a team that are capable of winning the Grand Slam.
No,
So
I'm just asking the question.
That doesn't make him a
that's all.
bad coach.
I know they won the tournament last year.
He's won the Nations Cup, hasn't he?
Yeah.
We're talking what? 3
No,
months ago.
I'm not saying that's what I think myself. I'm just asking the question to see what everyone thinks. Like,
I guess,
is he gonna?
you know, there are a lot of players in that England squad in the Saracens team, and I mean, the Saracens are struggling in the Championship. So I mean, they can't be that good, can they?
Yeah.
I'm
Got the fishing rod out. What's about?
I gotta be honest. I am with you on this game. I thought I predicted them to win the tournament, and I'm gonna just about stick with it. With playing France at home, and I think they're quality. I think Eddie Jones is quite clever, isn't he? And I'm not picking him up too much because I hope they don't win it. I hope they don't win it. But once they get rumbling, once those Saracens boys get game time under their belt, play Italy this weekend, get back out of fitness, as you said, they'll be rumbling into Cardiff now and playing. And then they've got a gap then, but I know they've got they'll be rumbling into Cardiff when they come around. They got too much quality, and it's a cycle for them. Again, they lost the World Cup final, and it's another 4-year cycle for them as well.
Yeah.
So they're probably they are sort of drip feeding new players into that squad as well.
Nah, look,
they got like Jack Willis will come in and out, and they've got like that Ollie Lawrence is starting to sort of come in and play, and they are tinkering with it a little bit. But I hope Italy smash them.
Yeah, no, look, I asked that question, but like when they turn up in Cardiff and we're playing them, I'm not confident at all for that game. I don't think we'll win it. I put them down a second originally, like I said earlier, and it's only because I think France were going to go for a Grand Slam, really, based on what I've seen from them. I just think they look the most exciting team. But England are definitely not a bad team. They got so much talent. They can get like 3 teams that can compete against like our first team probably, with the amount of players they've got that they can choose.
Yeah.
I think when we played them last year, didn't they have quite a few players that were quite new to the setup? I'm pretty sure. Well, one of the games we played recently against them. Because I think we were saying that we had a good chance, and then we went and lost anyway. So
are they good enough for Six
There's
Nations?
so many match winners. No?
I think should we bring in Georgia and play?
you're just fishing now.
Well, that was going to be. I was going to. No, I did have written down. I did have written down relegation in Italy, but I think we'll do that on the next one because I think it's a good one.
Yeah, it's been a long
because England will probably smash them. I think next week if we do like Italy and relegation, because I think England will probably smash them. We'll probably do that next week. Did you want to say anything on England, Ali? Do you want to add anything to that?
Don't think so. I think it's pretty much been covered.
Only quick fire then. I had written down then because it's a Lions year. Just based on round 1 alone, any sort of Darko shouts for the Lions squad or any nailed on selections?
Anyone or just
based
Welsh?
On round 1?
Anyone or just Wales?
But no, anyone. Just quick. If anybody's got a couple of players, just think even Dark Horses, some Lions bolters or some nailed on ones.
There's going to be a mix of English, Irish, Welsh, and Scottish players. That's my
Lewis
guess.
Rees-Zammit, I think, will sneak in. I think Gatlin likes a wild card back.
Is that Chris? Is that Chris? Can you sneak into the call there?
But yeah, Lewis Rees-Zammit, I think.
Good shout. I think Cameron Redpath, possibly, of Scotland. He might be
Oh,
one who's come from there. I think he didn't actually have the best of games on Saturday, but James Lowe for Ireland on a wing. I know Gatlin likes big, strong wingers, and he's quick and he runs a really good ball carrier. So he might be a Lions bolter.
What about? I know we haven't necessarily had the best year for Wales, but Aaron Wainwright, when under Gatland in the World Cup, was like standout. So is he going to maybe? Has he still got a bit of credit from there because Gatland's going to know what he wants? He's back in the squad obviously for this weekend.
Yes.
If he gets a couple of good performances, he could still get in. I think so that's probably one that people aren't talking about.
That's the question, isn't it? Because Gatland is coaching it. He's going to pick players that he knows, isn't he? Over sort of maybe they'll probably get the edge over somebody who has a good Six Nations, and that is probably a factor. But for me, I think for that weekend, I think Hogg plays 15 for the Lions if he's starting 15 all day. And And the other one I wrote down was you saying about big strong wingers. That Van der Merwe for Scotland
yeah.
was an absolute unit.
Forgot about him, actually.
He might be a dark horse shout. He was a unit and he was class. So they were my probably 2 for the weekend.
Yeah, say Finn Russell. You probably got to start Finn Russell 10, haven't you? If you're basing on this.
Well,
weekend.
I don't know, because I think Finn Russell was. I think Finn Russell was both the worst and the best 10 in this weekend. I mean, we saw like for the full 18 minutes. I think we saw like every sort of Finn Russellness of Finn Russell. I think he's. I don't think Gatland would like him because Gatland likes players to stick to a sort of a game plan.
It's a maverick,
and I think Finn Russell, yeah, he is a maverick, has been thrown about a lot, and sort of like he's unpredictable as a player, isn't he? And I don't know if Gatland would like that. Having said that, I don't think there's a single fly half this weekend who stuck their hand up. Finn Russell probably was the best of the lot. But you wouldn't go for Farrell, you wouldn't go for Sexton, you wouldn't go for Bigger. So yeah,
But he's got to go
Russell
for
has to
someone,
take
isn't
it
he?
for 10.
I just think he's going to stick with a tried and tested, to be honest. Maybe Bigger drops out for Finn Russell.
I actually think he won't pick as many Welsh players this Lions tour than he has before. This is the only Lions tour he's not been the Welsh coach. So I think you got to be. He probably had an eye on the tried and tested before, and also how would that affect if you not picked for Wales, and not picked for the Lions, and they're going to go back to the Welsh camp, and then try and tell the people who weren't picked that actually no, you are the best in the best players in the Six Nations. This year, I think you'll pick a lot of the English boys. You're telling me Tom Curry, Sam Underhill. I think unfortunately, some of the Welsh boys might miss out in big positions. There'll be some really big drops. I think Navidi's top class, but I
Can't
actually
stay
only
fit, can he?
I think Tiprick will be the only flanker that goes from Wales.
Yeah, I'd agree. Yeah, I think so. I think so with the back row, especially with some of the talent. We're looking at. We didn't mention Hamish Watson.
Yeah.
For Scotland, you've got obviously the English back row, the Irish back row. I think you're right. I think only maybe Tiprick makes it for me on the back row. But maybe.
I don't know. I mean, like you look at sort of like not necessarily sort of like back rowers who can sort of like play along the back row, but sort of like you're looking at sort of like dedicated number 8s. I mean, typically you're looking at either Falatau or Billy Vunipola. Yeah, and Billy Vunipola hasn't been in great form recently, has he? Falatau's starting to come back into his usual sort of Falatau. This is usual. So you got to think sort of with Scotland. I mean, sort of like you got Hamish Watson, who's a 7, and then maybe Jamie Ritchie, who's an 8. So I mean, sort of I mean, Jamie Ritchie has been great. He's in great bit of form. Would you stick him in as an 8?
You could do. Actually, one player I forgot about this week, who actually played well in the loss, was Mario Toji. I think he's nailed on for the Lions, isn't he? Let's be honest. He's starting.
Yeah, he's
his
nailed
team
on.
sheets.
Yeah, definitely. I think so.
I was going to say no with Toji. He's put Ali Price under a lot of pressure, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's just around the game, and he's just a handful. And Mario Toji,
yeah.
he's just, he's just a phenomenal player. I think as well, he does a lot of work people don't see, like in the rucks and stuff, like cleaning players out or, doing them chop tackles and stuff. But you can guarantee when every player who plays with him says he's phenomenal, and you can see it. He's just he's England's standout player on Saturday.
I think for the second row, I think you got Itoje, got Ryan as well for Ireland. I don't know where you would put Alwyn Jones in that. He's got to be in there, isn't he? Come on, mate.
I think we could probably do like a whole another episode on the Lions, couldn't we? And
I think that's one for we'll get after the Six Nations get our full views on.
I say it's a cracking debate, though. I think we could do like a whole episode just on the Lions after the Six Nations or something.
Definitely close to
the
time, I think.
Yeah, I think we could just sort of stick in maybe 1 or 2 players each week, just see who stands out. Like we said, like Hogg this week, and that's OJ and that. Right, and thanks everyone for listening. Cheers if you made it this far, and if you did, just make sure you give us a like, give us a subscribe, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and get involved if you disagreed with anything. I'm sure you'll let us know. So thanks for watching. Cheers, lads, all for tuning up.
Cheers, Lee.
Cheers.
As I say,
Yeah.
Yeah.